All right, here we are live on YouTube. It's Sunday morning, October the 18th, 2020. And well, I'm not really downtown. I'm at home. I'm just having a little bit of fun with the Zoom program because I can do this. So that's exciting. 10:17 a.m. Service starts at 10:30 this morning. I don't have too much to say except for we had a really good annual meeting the other day. Took care of all the things that we had to take care of. We had to nominate people to certain committees, and we had to recognize the work that Paul and Trina and Urbane have been doing, and also recognize and the work that all the volunteers have been doing. So many volunteers, even during all of this. Cam Bowes in particular needs to be thanked for all of his work as the chair of the board. I mean, there's so many people to thank. I mean, there's the McLarens, Graham McLaren for building the bell tower, which is what we call the storage cabinet in the choir room for the new bells, or for the bells. The bells aren't new, but the storage thing is new. Um, Cam Bowes painted the kitchen, and Cam Bowes been painting up a storm in that church for the last year, and also keeping us connected and making sure that we follow through on our obligations as far as being a congregation in the church goes. He's been doing a wonderful job there. And so we had a meeting. It was all of I think it was about 25 minutes long. Some of the ones in years past haven't been that long either. They've been probably 35, 40 minutes or so. What we would normally do is we have church, a very short church service, at least by our standards, what, 35, 40 minutes long. And then everybody would go and they'd get a cup of coffee and they'd get a muffin or whatever the social committee had made for us that day. Then we would go and we would have our meeting. Most of our meetings went really, really smoothly. Some of the longer ones when we were retooling our constitution took a little bit longer. I think that's a function of being in Ottawa, where a number of your congregation members are former or current bureaucrats for whom wordsmithing and things like constitutions and bylaws is a way of life. So that kind of wisdom gets turned into longer meetings, but it allows us to make sure that we're doing things right. So that's exciting. Sometimes financial stuff takes long. Sometimes we've had congregational meetings about some issues that have turned out to be rather contentious. I think we all know about that. One thing that keeps coming up again and again, every so often, are pews. Replacing the pews with chairs. And that is just a minefield. I don't know what it is about that topic that is just like radioactive. Some folks are like, hey, let's do it. Let's get the pews out of there. And I can certainly see the appeal, because once the pews are gone, you have chairs. Then you have got a multi-use space that is reconfigurable for tables and all sorts of activities. And other churches, they would add on to their building that kind of space at hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of expense just to get that. And all we could do that in an afternoon. So there's appeal there. But one thing about being in ministry, and I think just being an adult, really, or just being a nice person, is you need to be able to hold two thoughts in your head at the same time, and you need to be able to hold all sorts of feelings in your heart at the same time. So on the one hand, I could say, yeah, getting rid of the pews makes a lot of sense. Logically, makes a lot of sense, because then you have got reconfigurable space. You can have meals in there, if and when we can come back to have meals. You could have karaoke nights. You have that big screen that you could configure chairs around. You can, oh my gosh, I mean, there's so many different things you can do. I mean, in terms of worship, summer worship, when you don't have that many people, you can take chairs out. You can make it more intimate. Social distancing. You can make bubbles. It'd be very easy just to put, how many people can we have in the sanctuary? Well, we can have 60 people. We can have 30% of our capacity. Our capacity is about 200, 30% of that 60. You could take 60 chairs and you could place them sort of, apart, 6 feet apart, and take away the ambiguity. People just come in, sit down, kind of like they do at Pinecrest Memorial, and they do at Beechwood as well. They make bubbles with the chairs. That is super simple. What we've done now is we put tape and pews, and we'll figure it out if and when we ever come back. So there's that. Now, on the other hand, that being said, and this is why I think, the conversation gets a little bit, because what I really want, what I really hope is that in our congregation, any congregation really, is that you've got, all right, you got one point of view that makes sense to a lot of people or some people, and makes sense to folks who are able to, look at both sides. Um, so there's that. Spiritually, communion. There's all sorts of things you can do spiritually and liturgically without pews that you can't do with pews. Lots of things you can do socially, lots of things you can do in terms of rentals without pews that you can't do with pews. All right, so there's that. The other side. I know it's too bad we use words like other side. But if you look at it another way, the other way to look at it is that we're spiritual beings. We're people who have traditions and rituals for a reason, and I think we're just programmed that way, and that's wonderful because it's those traditions, it's those rituals, it's that sameness or comfort or however you want to put it that is there for us as an anchor in a world that is changing really, really fast. And where did we start this? I mean, you want to go back to classical architecture in churches. Like we're talking like way back in the first millennium, where pews in that form of building made sense then and makes spiritual sense now for a lot of folks. It's an ongoing continuity, and people have memories of the growing up in a church with pews. That's where they went to church with grandma, and their babies were baptized. They were married in a church with pews. So the funerals happened, and there's all sorts of heart things, spirit things that are tied to pews, because we have symbol systems. Human beings have symbol systems, and religious people have symbol systems, and so a pew is part of that symbol system. Maybe as much as the cross is, maybe as much as the Bible is, or whatever. The music, music is another thing altogether. But pews make a part of our heart. They make a part of our spirit. They're things that humans do, Christians have done for a long, long time. And if you were to just come in and remove that anchor, remove that, then you're harming people. And if you're not doing it because you've discerned that the greater good is served by doing it 100%, then removing pews could be seen as cruel. And that's not what we're about either. So I don't know how I went on this diatribe, and on this rabbit hole. Oh yeah, annual meetings. So anyway, when it comes to things like pews, you don't take them out unless there is a compelling reason to do so. And you have got a whole lot of excitement, and you've got financial reasons, you've got all sorts of things going. All right. And then you got the hearts and minds of the congregation behind you, and you make the decision and you do it. Right. Now, there might be some people, even then, and we're not even planning this. This is like almost irresponsible to be going down this pathway. But even if you have say everybody except for maybe like 2 or 3 folks, or like one couple or whatever, and everybody's like, oh, we've got to do this, we're super excited because we've got this happening, or we got this happening, and now we can do this, and we tried this sort of in this area, and it was really, really good, and people felt really, really spirit fed by whatever it is, and they were like, oh, we got to do this. And then there's just you've tried stuff, you've experimented, and you have results, and you're like, all right, this is good, we need to do this, and we're excited to do this, and you've raised all the money for the chairs, and you've got a home for all the wood from the pews, and you've got it all. And even then, if you have 1 or 2 people or a couple or whatever that's dead set against it, sometimes you have to have a really hard conversation. And this is what my friend who's in church development and conflict management and all that kind of stuff is you affirm the common ground, because there's a lot of it. But if the congregation, and they believe that they're being led by the Spirit, led by God to go down a path that does not include pews, and that's possible. I mean, we've seen lots of other congregations do it. But if there's like this feeling amongst the group more or less, by and large, most folks say, all right, it's time to do this. God's telling us to get rid of the pews so that we can serve God and serve our world around us better without them. And everyone's on board except for a few. Then sometimes you have to say to those folks who are not on board, you know what? This is a decision that's been made prayerfully, it's been made logically, and it's been made by most of us. And we understand that you don't agree with it. And we don't want you to feel hurt. And I hope you don't feel hurt because that was certainly not our intention and certainly not the way we went about things because we wanted to affirm your feelings all along. But if you feel that removing the pews, and this is just an example among others, but if you feel that removing the pews is an absolute deal breaker for you, that you cannot feel in your conscience or your heart or whatever, your spirit, that this is a home for you because we've decided to move the pews, then with sadness and with an open invitation to come back, then it might be goodbye. And if you leave because you didn't agree with the decision to get rid of the pews, if you leave because of that, and if you leave with the demonstrative, the way we've demonstrably showed care and compassion and insight and thoughtfulness and whatever, all that stuff, if you really feel like none of that was enough for you to feel like you can go down this road with us, then you have to do what you have to do. But we want you to be here. Anyway, that's not going to happen. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there as an example of the kind of compromise. So anyway, you don't do things arbitrarily, like remove pews. You just don't do it. Right now, there's no compelling reason to do it. And there might not be for quite some time. But anyway, it's 10:29, and I can't believe I rambled on about that. I might have to delete this because it's so controversial. Like I said, radioactive. So anyway, folks, we're going to go live. I'm using a new program this week. I've used a new editing suite and a new lens. It's one of my camera lenses. I tried using it this week, and anyway, we tried fooling around with the sound a little bit to make the sound a little bit better. And I think we made pretty nice video this week. So anyway, folks, I'm going to leave this. I better leave now because if I don't, I'm going to miss the beginning. Peace.